Good afternoon, teacups. Welcome back to Spill the Tea Lou. Welcome back to Teacup Castle. Welcome back to what's going to be one of our last transfer shows. The Premier League season, kicks off today. This afternoon, we're talking about transfers. There's here we goes all over the gaff. The dominoes are falling, and we're here to talk about it all. But before I get stuck into the football today, guys, which is obviously what the show is going to be about, I just want to talk about something that's actually a little bit more important than football, which is the teacups. And so one of our teacups has been having a bit of a difficult times in terms of mental health, took a little break from the old internet, from the football, from the chat, from the social media, the YouTubes, all of the peoples and the places over the last couple of days, and then felt comfortable enough to come in and share that with our chat. And so I just want to say, thank you very much, guys. When I started this channel, I was so really specific about the exact type of channel that I wanted to have. The reason that I'm so harsh and I'm so quick to block somebody who doesn't fit what I want for my channel is because I have a really clear idea of the type of channel I want to run, of the type of creator that I want to be, about the type of space that I want to create on YouTube from my chatters and my subscribers and my members. And I'm really strict about curating that and who I let in and who I won't. And I want to thank you all so much for helping me to build that, because I want this to be an enjoyable place for me to come and talk to you guys, and for you guys to come and enjoy the content. And what I saw in the comment section in the chat there this early afternoon and before the show kicked off was just so lovely to see. And so I want to thank you guys for sharing and for being so brave, because it is still, for many, many years, it was very taboo to speak about mental health. And while I would say it is changing, it still in some quarters is quite taboo. It's like looked down on, it's not a real illness, can you not just suck it up? Blah, 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 blah. And so as some of you will know from being on the channel, but also from knowing me and from hearing me speak about it before, maybe those of you that saw me on Kate and Jimbo when they do their mental health stream, I struggle with my mental health. Some days of good days, some days of bad days. And I think when you have a mental health condition, I don't think you ever fully get cured. Sometimes you have good spells and bad spells. Sometimes it hits a little bit harder than others. And sometimes you just need to take a break and do what's best for you. But I love, love, love the fact that we have a space here where that can be shared, and know that there's not going to be any judgment. There's not going to be any nasty comments. There's not going to be any mick taken. It's a really lovely conversation. So thank you to everybody who participated in that this morning and just in building the channel to what it is, because it's really important to me and it's really lovely, and I think it makes everything else more enjoyable when we know that we're people. It's not like a random faceless account on the internet. Like, it's real people having real conversations, and not just about football. So thank you to everybody who has been an enormous part of that. And it's very wonderful to see our teacup back in the chat with us. But I just wanted to really address that, because I do think it's something that's important, and it's sort of pushed to the side quite often about mental health. And if somebody broke their leg, you wouldn't ask them why they're wearing a cast. Do you know what I mean? Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. So yeah, I just wanted to address that at the start, because I think it was something really important and really nice. Just really, really nice. So thank you to everybody. But let me say hello now that I've done my little speech, let me say hello to everybody. I see Mohammed there saying, same as me, who has autism, as the stream is a nice place to be with a lot of great people. And that's it. We never know what people are struggling with. We never know what challenges people face. We never know what's going on in people's worlds. And this, I feel personally, when I come here to talk to you guys, I feel like it's an escape. I feel like I leave the real world at the door and we come into Teacup Castle and we just have a bit of a natter. And it's a really nice thing that we have here. And while the channel is massively growing, which I am so delighted about, I'm so delighted the channel's growing. We've more and more teacups, we're expanding the castle, which I love. But as we expand the castle, it's so important to me that we hold on to that, what we've created, that nice atmosphere where people feel comfortable to come. So absolutely just lovely, really lovely. Guess is sneaking in during class. That's how lovely it is. Guess is at enough of class. She's still here. Don't tell anybody. Yes, all boxed up. Was so pleased to have arrived early, and to be part of that conversation. It was really lovely. Mohammed there sharing with us as well. Paige saying hello to everybody joining us. Flossie saying this is a very safe space for all who want to be here. Exactly, because we will not tolerate the nonsense. We will not tolerate it. And I know, even if I don't catch it immediately because I'm nattering away to myself, the chat, the mods, the excellent mods, we have such a lovely place to be. So thank you all for being a massive, massive part of it. All Boxed Up says, hello, Lou. You are fantastic. Oh, thank you. And your community shows it by the reciprocation. Much appreciated. Gas says, sharing is caring, it is indeed. Gaz and lovely Luke have joined us. Hello to the lads for popping in. And we do have some super chats. You guys are on a roll this morning. You guys are on a roll. So we had All Boxed Up unboxed a very lovely conversation earlier. That's the nicest thing you've unboxed for us so far. We have our Shem sending us the Hey You pair. Then we have Rob with the How's It Going Foxy. And then Shem says, how's it going back to Rob with the other How's It Going Foxy? All boxed up with a super chat that said, massive big up, Shem, Rob, myself in modesty, and Lou. That's who was about earlier on before everybody else joined. That was who was there. Flossie obviously joined not long after that. And then Rob has sent the lemon. The lemon is blowing kisses to all of the people. So thank you all very much for sending in your very lovely super stickers and super chats. Very generous and very much appreciated. So thank you to you guys for that as well. Yeah, Mohammed says the mods get them within a second. They don't mess around. No, my mods do not mess around. Absolutely not. This is what a channel looks like when the host is a moderator. So I've moderated on so many YouTube channels. And so when I started this channel, I had a chat with Flossie. And I was like, on my channel, we're not having any of that shit. So this is what it looks like when you put the mod on the screen. No nonsense. Get them in the bin. So yes, we do. We love it. But we've so many beautiful teacups in the chat this morning, having a lovely old chatter. We've got all of our super stickers in. And Flossie says they don't call me Trigger for nothing. Love it. On that note, guys, now that we've all had a very happy, lovely start to the show, we do have to start talking about the football now. So we'll see. That might take us down a peg or two for some of us. Not for Shem, though, because Fabrizio Romano came out. Tottenham have reached a verbal agreement with Manchester City to sign Savinho. Here we go. Club to club verbal agreement in place tonight. So this was last night, with Savinho set to travel for the medical at Tottenham Hotspur. Fee will be over £75 million. Separate talks for Omar Marmoush continue. Florian Plettenberg come out then and said at 10:14 a.m. today, Omar Marmoush and Tottenham have reached a full verbal agreement. Club-to-club negotiations with Manchester City are advanced and set to be completed soon if nothing extraordinary happens. So, here we go, Savinho. Verbal agreement in place, medical pending for Savinho to Spurs. Marmoush and Spurs, full verbal agreement. Club-to-club negotiations with City are already advanced and set to be completed soon. So, We spoke yesterday about the talk of a double deal. It was reported 150 million was what City would want for Marmoush and Savinho. Initially, Savinho had been linked for around 60 to 65. I was thinking, well, that leaves it about 90 for Marmoush, which is mental. If it's going to be over 75 for Savinho, let's say 80, and then Marmoush for about 70 for Marmoush probably isn't bad in the market that we're in, because I think he's a decent player. He's absolutely a player that Spurs need. And he's only really not playing at City because he's not Haaland. So I think that leaves 70 for Marmoush, I think would be actually quite good business. 75 plus, so let's say maybe 80 for Savinho, feels insane. That feels utterly off the wall. I mean, I don't know, Shem will be able to tell us, I don't know how Spurs fans will feel about this, because it's an enormous sum of money. They've overplayed for so many players in this window. Like, the money they paid for Tonali, 92.5, that's big money. For a player that then doesn't actually want to be there, he wants to be in Italy, is a lot of money. 85 for Mateus Fernandes, that's a lot of money. I know you got Senesi for free. Robertson was free. For Van Hecke, I think your price for Van Hecke was okay. It wasn't mental. But, and as I said, I think if you get Marmoush for around 70, so if the thing of 150 was accurate and it's going to be over 75 for Savinho, that leaves around 70 for Marmoush, which I actually think isn't too bad. But then 75 for Savinho feels crazy. So I suppose my thinking is, because they've got so many players kind of free or very like lower fees, they can afford to then overspend in other areas. They got Senesi and Robertson for free. So the money they maybe would have paid for them can go towards these overpriced deals like Mateus Fernandes and Savinho. So they are absolutely 1,000,000% overpaying. There's no doubt about it. But that money is coming from not spending it on other deals. They also don't have to comply with European rules this summer. They also have the first sort of season of squad cost ratio. And these are players they really, really need. It's really important for Spurs to get attackers. Now, I think for most people the problem lies in, is Savinho any good? You could be paying over 75 million for a player that's not very good. City did not pay a whole lot of money for him. They certainly didn't pay over 75. He's not exactly been a hit at City, and then you're paying a fortune for him. I think that's where people start to have question marks. Huge says they want Gakpo. Yeah, we mentioned that yesterday, Huge, that they want all three of them, that they wanted Marmoush and Savinho and Gakpo. That was the report yesterday, which we discussed. But it was also mentioned by the journalists that Gakpo would be the hardest deal to do because Liverpool at the moment are struggling for wingers and they don't want to lose Gakpo. And so they would want to have somebody in before they let him go. So that's actually going to be the hardest one to negotiate. So it seems like what they want to do is get Savinho and Marmoush over the line because they feel that they're easier to get over the line, and then maybe turn to Gakpo, which is probably going to be their last signing if they get him over the line. So I think what they want to do is get Savinho done, which they've been working on. If they can get Marmoush done, get him over the line, then turn to Gakpo and just spend the rest of the window focused solely on Gakpo rather than continuing to try and juggle 3 different sets of negotiations. But yeah, we did mention that yesterday. I actually think if they get Gakpo, that would have been better than Savinho, but they obviously want both. Marmoush, I think, is a great idea. I think Marmoush is a great idea. If that happens, if they get it over the line, if they get him for anywhere near 70, I think that's okay, guys. In this window, he's going to be their starting striker. He's going to make a massive impact to their front line. He really could be a massive difference maker for them this summer and this season. So the Marmoush one I think would be fine. The Savinho one, I think that's mad money. I think that's mad money. I don't know what I think of him. I don't know if he's going to be that good. Roberto De Zerbi clearly rates him. The club clearly wants him. They have gone and paid the money for a player that they rate. So, fairs, it feels like an extraordinary amount of money for a not particularly well-renowned player. I kind of feel like I think it's too much money. I think it's too much money is what I think. Tom says, I think there's something dodgy going on. That does seem to just be the go-to comment for people at the minute. When it comes to any deal that Chelsea or Man City make, the go-to comment I see on socials just seems to be there's something dodgy there. I understand what people are saying, but the fact is Spurs and Spurs manager really want the player. Man City are very good negotiators, and Spurs are splashing the cash throughout the summer with all teams. Like Mateus Fernandes, they paid 85 million for Mateus Fernandes. They didn't buy him off City or Chelsea. I just don't get me wrong. I think it would be very hard to say that neither Chelsea nor Man City have never done anything they shouldn't have done because there's been so many charges and sanctions. So I think it would be naive to say everything's done super honestly. But I also find it, if I'm honest, a little tiresome that every single deal must be dodgy. Sometimes, maybe Spurs are just really bad at negotiating. They've overpaid for all of the players, except the ones that were free. Maybe Spurs are just terrible negotiators. Do you know what I mean? I'm not naive enough to think that everything in football is very honest. And I understand when a player that's bought in on a low fee and then doesn't perform is sold for a higher fee, it doesn't look like it makes a lot of sense. But sometimes, not everything's dodgy. Some of it might be, but not everything. I find it tiresome personally that every time I look on the internet, anything to do with Chelsea and City, it's dodgy. Ask questions. But I just find it tiresome, if I'm honest, personally. I don't rate how City got to where they are. I do rate how they run themselves currently. And I can separate the two. I think maybe how they got here, questionable, obviously, because the Premier League are questioning it. But they are there now. I just think Spurs are overspending. I think Spurs are overspending. I think maybe if another club was in, maybe a different deal would have been negotiated. But Spurs seem quite happy to spend the money. Do you know what I mean? All Boxed Up says the deal is in the hands of the player. It's what the player is worth to them. And I do agree with that. It is about what is the player worth to the team. And for example, Manchester City at the minute, Doku's injured. Other than that, they've got Grealish and they've got Savinho. That's the extent of their wingers. They can go to Spurs and say, you spent 85 million on Mateus Fernandes, an unproven youngster. We want more than that for our player who is going to leave us short in a position we're going to have to buy somebody in to replace him because we don't have a lot of wingers. That's a position we're in need. Do you know, maybe Spurs are genuinely just terrible negotiators. Because from what I've seen in this window, they're terrible negotiators. They didn't negotiate very well for Van Hecke. In the end, the price was okay, but it wasn't good. They didn't negotiate very well with Newcastle for Tonali, and they didn't negotiate very well with West Ham for Mateus Fernandes. So, okay, then they didn't negotiate very well with City for Savinho. Do you know what I mean? It's not always City and Chelsea. Sometimes, but it's not always. Sometimes maybe Spurs were just terrible at the negotiating table. Do you know what I mean? I just think we have to think of other things. Do you know? Shem says, we have no Europe, so we are getting scammed with these prices. Levy would negotiate until he won, which is why the league didn't want to deal with him anymore. The idiots in charge now just don't know how to negotiate. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, no harm. I would love to see, like, look at this, right? So, Marinakis, Nottingham Forest versus Manchester City. Sorry, Man City are the club that got scammed there. Do you know what I mean? Like, Marinakis knows how to negotiate. So little old Nottingham Forest toddled in and got minimum £116 million for average Elliot Anderson. Is that dodgy too? Or is Marinakis just like a really good negotiator and City didn't know what to do with him? Spurs should have hired Marinakis. Do you know what? Marinakis should just like sell Nottingham Forest and become a super agent, because honestly, he would give Jorge Mendes a run for his money. Oh dear. Career advice with Lou. Sell your club, become a super agent. Let me see. Huge said, this is 100% the worst deal in this window. He would need to be one of the best wingers in the world to justify the price. Well, another winger that went this summer, who is very good, I'm not comparing their talent, but another winger who went this summer was Morgan Rogers, and he went for 120. So he's going for probably 40 million less than Morgan Rogers. Does that feel right, that gap? Because if the gap feels right, maybe it's the window. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying, I know he's nowhere near Morgan Rogers, but I mean, there's about a 40 million gap there. That seems a pretty sizable gap for the sizable gap in what they bring to a team. I don't know, how much was Garnacho sold for? How much was, or is he on a loan? Garnacho's on a loan, I think. I think he might be a loan. Garnacho sold for. We might do that when the transfer window closes. Yeah, he's on a loan. When the transfer window closes, we might do that. Go through kind of the bigger transfers and look at which ones were super expensive but good value, super expensive, terrible value, and vice versa. We might do a little show on that at the end of the window. Owner of the summer transfer window, Marinakis, big up, says All Fox Stuff. I agree. I see Rose is with us and Ash is with us in the chat as well. Hello to you guys. Yeah, Shem is saying, didn't Spurs just do with Savinho what United did with Anthony? Yeah. You paid a fortune, way too much, for a player that's probably not very good. Yeah, you've done exactly what United did. Exactly, yeah, 100%. Oh, wait till you see him do his skills in the middle of a match, Shem. Shem says, hopefully he does better than Anthony, or he'll end up back at Girona for 15 million. Yes, Ash is there as well. Gal says, I think it's because people don't trust City now with all the charges hanging over their head. I don't exactly trust City, but I just think every single thing is dodgy. I'll be honest, I get bored of the same conversation. Like, as I said, I don't think any club is super honest about everything. But I think also just this thing of everything's dodgy, I do think is a little tinfoil hat, if I'm honest. I understand why people don't trust City, like, obviously. I think it's too much all the time, everything. Like Mohammed there says, I think all clubs have something crazy. Yeah, I think all the clubs have some skeletons, some metaphorical skeletons. Shem says, according to some conspiracy theories, you are overpaying for Savinho and underpaying for Marmoush because of the 15% sell-on clause they're trying to get around to keep as much money as possible. See, that that I would buy. That's a conspiracy theory I would buy, which technically would be slightly dodgy, but also fully within the rules. So they're overpricing one player and underpriced. So if you say pay 80 for Savinho and let's imagine 70 for Marmoush, the prices are probably reversed. Whatever you pay for Marmoush is probably Savinho's price. They're working around the sell-on, which technically feels a little dodgy, but is absolutely 100% not breaking the rules. They're selling the player for whatever the buying club is willing to pay. If they've come to that agreement to circumvent the sell-on clause, I mean, I wouldn't be mad if United did it. Do you know what I wouldn't be mad if United did it, so I'm not going to complain. That I could get on board with. That conspiracy theory, that's one I could 100% believe. Yeah, that I believe. Shem has solved the mystery. There you go. Tom says, I think they will get Marmoush for what looks like a cheap deal. So that kind of ties in with what Shem was saying there. All Boxed Up says, the problem for Spurs is bringing in many individuals and getting them to gel as a team while the season is ongoing. Yeah, 100%. Definitely agree. Huge says he's been sold for, or they're paying far too much. I don't even think he's worth half of that. That's a little harsh. I don't know. I'll be honest, guys. I don't have a strong opinion on the player. I haven't watched him enough to know. So I'm kind of going by, at the moment, public opinion. Maybe after I watch him, I'll feel more strongly. Maybe after I see him for Spurs, I'm going to be like, what were they thinking? Absolute mental cases. That there was definitely something bogey with that deal. I might change my mind. At the minute, I don't have a strong opinion on him. But I do that's that theory there to avoid the sell-on clause, the 15% sell-on. That one I could see being a thing, yeah. Yeah, and All Boxed Up says, when it's within the rules, it's fair game. Agree. And to be fair, they're just being creative, aren't they? That's my thing. If it breaks the rules, don't do it. If it's within the rules and you're creative enough to think of it, I'm not going to criticise you. That's the way it is. Gaz says, of course not all their business is dodgy. That would be naive, but we don't know what clubs are up to at the end of the day. No, we don't, and we never will. I think some departments in clubs don't know what other departments are up to. I don't even think everybody within a club knows what's going on, let alone people on the outside. We're all just guessing. Absolutely. Shem says, my worry is about the complete new players and trying to gel them into a team, especially as all the Brighton players say it took them a long time to adjust to De Zerbi's tactics. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yes, Huge. I've seen his stats on about 20 different channels already. I have seen his GA on probably literally about 20 different YouTube channels already. I will wait until I watch him play, if I'm honest with you, because I really rated Jack Grealish. If I judged Jack Grealish based on his time at City, I would think he's a terrible player, and I don't. I think he's a very good player, and I think City destroyed him. So I'm also quite wary of reading GA off a sheet. Even when we do it, when we're looking at signings in the summer, I always say on paper it looks like this. We have to see it in practice. So yeah, I've seen those stats on about 20 different channels. The stats don't make for good reading, but I think sometimes, particularly at a team like City, where you have to play a very specific way, I just don't think it tells a full story. But at City, it is not all about outgoings, it is also incomings. David Ornstein of The Athletic, and I see All Boxed Up has just mentioned The Athletic. Did I see the weird going on regarding The Athletic? No. Tell us more. Let me know. I haven't seen it. Whatever it is, I haven't seen it. So do let me know. But David Ornstein has said Manchester City, and we mentioned Adam Wharton. I said yesterday I thought Adam Wharton would be a better idea than Enzo Fernandez for City. But David Ornstein has said no, he's not. No, he's not, Lou. Get yourself together. Manchester City inquired to Crystal Palace about Adam Wharton, but we're told 22-year-old midfielder is not available this summer. England international among the candidates on the Manchester City recruitment list, but Crystal Palace have no intention of selling before the deadline. That's new from Crystal Palace. Oliver Glasner's probably looking at that going, you sold all my players, what are you doing keeping Adam Wharton? So poor Oliver Glasner had multiple meltdowns last season because they sold all of his best players without really giving him any heed. This summer, they're like, no, we're refusing to sell Adam Wharton. Sorry, he's important. If you're Oliver Glasner, you're raging. You're like, what? Where was this last summer? What do you mean you're not selling him? Get him out the door. So if you're Oliver Glasner, I think you probably have to be about raging. They sold his striker. I mean, he must have come out. It had to be at least 3 different press conferences. He came out being like, they sold my striker 2 days before the season started without telling me. Mid-season, they were selling me other teams. Like, I think it's quite amusing. If I'm Oliver Glasner, I'm raging. But it does explain why all of the teams that had previously been linked with Adam Wharton, such as Liverpool, such as United, just never really bothered trying to move it forward. Obviously, Crystal Palace have had this stance throughout the window. There was, as I said, very, very right at the start of the window, there was rumours about 100 million. But obviously it was just a case of like, no, he's just actually not for sale, lads, don't bother. Similar to Alex Scott, it seems to be. But that does mean he appears not to be an option for Manchester City, which I suppose limits their options again. Because there's only a certain amount of players that they would probably feel is good enough or at the level for Man City. And Adam Wharton was clearly one of those. Do they end up having to go for Enzo because there's not really anybody else that they feel is of sufficient stature? Buwadi is still not over the line, by the way, people. Can I just say, the season starts today. Today, opening game of the season is today. And they still don't have Buwadi over the line. Now, I have spoken about Liverpool and how long they are taking to get Barcola, that it feels like the deal might end up just being off because it's taken so long. City have been in for Buwadi for basically the same length of time as Liverpool have been in for Barcola. It may even be longer because I can't remember. And they haven't got him over the line. Still, the season starts today and then they're going to need more. I know City are pretty powerful in the transfer window. But really? I mean, they're leaving it a bit last minute, Annie, aren't they? I would be concerned. Genuinely, if I was a City fan, I would be concerned. Now, they have also, according to David Ornstein, Mario Cortegana, Sam Lee in The Athletic. And they're following Santi J, who we have mentioned a couple of times in the window, kind of mixed reliability. Manchester City working on a deal for Alan Elias from Palmeiras. Manchester City targeting the 22-year-old winger, so they're looking at a winger, which they really need to. Among options to replace Savinho, Palmeiras aiming to keep the Brazilian. He has a €100 million release clause. Are they going to have to pay €100 million for this young man, 20 years of age, because that's his release clause? Like, if Palmeiras don't want to sell, and that's his release clause, I'd make them pay it. Pay it or we're keeping him. That's the release clause. Do it. I mean, you're stuck. You need a winger. Your season's starting. We don't want to sell him. That's his release clause. Pay it or get lost. That's what I would be doing. Personally, I'd be digging my heels in. Fabrizio has reported that they have reached a verbal agreement with the player. There's personal terms have been agreed. The player would like the move, which is all very nice. I mean, to be fair, you would probably want to move from Palmeiras to Manchester City if those were your options. Official negotiations have been opened overnight with Palmeiras. Fabrizio says the deal is on. David Ornstein and the writers of The Athletic say they want to keep him. Even if it's not the full release clause, they're probably going to have to put a pretty big fee on the table to get him. 22 years old, so reasonable age, not super duper young, but a really good age. And in a position they absolutely most certainly needs reinforcement. Interesting price. It will be interesting how much they end up paying, because similar to Chelsea and similar to Nottingham Forest, I feel like teams are starting to say to City, no, pay for the player or go away. So Nottingham Forest started it, Chelsea are trying to carry it on, and Palmeiras are getting in on the act. So as much as City are getting a lot of money for Savinho, that's probably too much, almost definitely too much. They are also overpaying for players. Elliot Anderson is not £116 million. Enzo Fernandez, if they were to get him, is not £120 million. And even if this young man has all the promise in the world, €100 million for a winger from Palmeiras, sorry, that's it's not a real price. So their prices of what they're bringing in is too much. What they're spending is also too much. The shine is wearing, guys. What they're paying is also too much. Let me see. Lucky's with us. Hello to Lucky. Gaz says, some deals have really surprised me how long they've gone on for. It makes me feel a bit better about my own club. Well, United's were super fast. So the Santos one was lightning. Tielemans was fast. That was a release clause, to be fair, but that was fast. Baleba, I don't know. It felt fast the other day. It was happening. I was expecting a here we go. If we get a here we go today, I would say that was reasonably fast from when it seems like we decided to go back in from to actually getting him. If it doesn't happen until next week, that one is much faster than how long it took City to do Elliot Anderson, how long it took City to do Buwadi if they get him, how long it takes Liverpool to do Barcola if they get him. There's definitely been a lot of long drawn out sagas which we have not been involved in, which I am quite pleased about. But yeah, I agree with you. We've not been the slowest in this window, for sure, which is nice. Makes a change. Mohammed says, I think if Slot was in charge, we would have got him in. You think Slot would have had the pull, Mohammed? You think Slot would have had the pull to get him in, or Slot would have pushed for him? Give me more. Tell me the things. Flossie says the bubble will burst at some point. It will. It always does. The bubble always bursts. Always. All Boxed Up says it was announced last night a goalie in Germany was going to Leeds. The agent refuted the story and threw shade on the Athletic. Oh, spicy. They announced last night. Who was the journalist? If you know, if you don't, fairs. But I'm just curious now. I'm going to go and look at that after the show. I'm going to go and look it up. Let me see. Zetterer. Oh, I think I saw something. I think I saw actually the Zetterer story from the Athletic. Hold on. Zetterer Athletic. Because they have so many journalists. Which journalist? The German, okay, so the Athletics German football correspondent is Seb Stafford Bloor. So actually, we've mentioned him 2 or 3 times this summer. He sometimes co-writes with David Ornstein, but he is their German football correspondent specifically. So what some people are saying is the deal was on and it has now collapsed. Some people are saying the deal was never happening. Interesting. I mean, to be fair, Sky Sports reported it as well as The Athletic. And Sky Sports are slow, but normally they're slow because they try and get it right. Interesting. To be fair, I think I said, was it the other day? I said, nobody ever gets everything 100%. Ever. When he said it, maybe it was true and now it's not. You know, maybe it wasn't and his sources were bad. I just, nobody ever gets everything 100% in life. It's just not possible. It's an unrealistic expectation. If they're getting it wrong more than they're getting it right, I would say cools. If their percentage of correct stories is like 90%, I'll probably let them away with one. Do you know what I mean? Rose says the Tonali issue was that Spurs has an Italian manager. Yes, and the Italian clubs can't afford to sign him. Yeah, we did. We covered that at the time. They've got the Brescia link. Both De Zerbi and Tonali have a Brescia link. We spoke about that actually at the time of the deal. We spoke at that when the deal was sort of first put out there and everybody said it was crazy. We said that it wasn't because of that Brescia link, even before that deal moved forward. So yeah, that was always a part of it. Let me see. Oh no, I'm pretty much up to date. Let's go forward. That's all right. Harold is not feeling well. 39.5 fever. That's very high. Headache from hell. Oh, and you're self-employed, Harold. 39.5 is a very high fever, Harold. Please do make sure that you're minding yourself. I know you run your own business and the bills have got to be paid, but that's no good to you if you can't do anything. 39.5 is an exceptionally high fever. So please do mind yourself. Mohammed says, not the pull from Slot, but before Slot got sacked, there were a lot of things going on about Wharton. There was, yous were the most linked club to Adam Wharton. I was convinced at the start of the summer yous were going to get him. I couldn't swear to it. You will probably know better than me because you'll follow your club more closely. I thought that it was around the time the negotiations were happening for Elliot Anderson, when Man United were still involved in the conversation. And so it was known that Elliot Anderson was going to be over 100 million. And at that time then, that is when it was put out, well, if Elliot Anderson was going to be over 100 million, then the minimum pricing for Adam Wharton would be 100 million. And then I didn't hear a single thing of views being linked to him after that. And I think that was before Slot was removed. I couldn't swear to the timeline, but as I remember it, the rumours stopped when he was rumoured to be 100 million, which was before Slot was gone. Maybe though they already knew that Slot was going to be going, because I do think it all happened quite close together. So internally they probably already knew Slot was going to go and maybe they wanted a different direction. It could have factored in. It definitely could have factored in, but I was blaming the price tag. Not that you won't spend money, because obviously you have and you intend to again. Maybe you guys just didn't think he was worth 100 million. And then maybe it came out that he just wasn't for sale, which does seem to have been the case here. Similar to Alex Scott. He wasn't for sale. His price tag was 80 million. And then you can't buy him at any price. That was what happened with Alex Scott. So maybe Palace did something similar with Adam Wharton. He's 100 million. Actually, no, do you know what? He's literally just not for sale. You can't have him at any price. Maybe. But definitely it could have factored in. Everybody send in Harold loads of well wishes. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. All the love and support for Harold. That's crazy high. I'm like hot just thinking about that. Gregory has joined us and says hello to all of his fellow teacups. Hello to Gregory and welcome to the chat. But, so if they get that wee chap Elias over the line, Man City, they'll have paid a pretty penny for him. But if he comes in and hits the ground running, he's definitely in a position they need somebody to hit the ground running. It could end up being a good deal. Could be a great deal for Palmeiras. Could be a great deal. And as I said, when we were speaking about the Enzo Fernandez deal at the time, I love to see it. I love to see it. I mean, I'm not happy with 116 million for Elliot Anderson because it ruined the transfer prices for everybody. However, I love to see Man City being overcharged. Yeah, because they get so much money in for their players. I love that Marinakis was like, no, you're going to pay what I want, and they had to. I kind of love that the two clubs that people sort of say about, you know, transfer things went up against each other. Who's going to crumble? Chelsea versus Man City in a transfer. Who's going to come out on top? I enjoy that. And if Manchester City have to pay anywhere near 100 million for this young man to Palmeiras, fair play Palmeiras, well done you. It makes it feel a little fairer. Machina Joe, welcome to the chat and thank you for subscribing, has said, Elliot Anderson has zero skill. He's just a bully. He was doing 180-degree spin turns at the World Cup when nobody was near him, as if he was beating an opposition player. I agree with the most of what you've said. So I don't think he has zero skill. I think that's a bit extreme. I don't think anybody who plays in the Premier League has zero skill. I think that's a bit bold. I think he's decent. I think he's good. I think he's fine. Good is probably where I'd put him. Decent. I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he's particularly good. I didn't think he looked good at the World Cup. I didn't think he looked amazing when I watched him for Nottingham Forest last season. And based off the one game I've seen him play for Man City, he looked as lost for City as he did at the World Cup. He seems to be touted as a defensive player, and I don't think he is a very good defensive midfielder, because when I was asked about, back to when United were linked to Elliot Anderson, at the start of the window, I said, before City were anywhere near the deal, I don't think Elliot Anderson is what United should be going for. We need someone who specialises defensively, and I don't think he's that. I actually think he's more of an 8, if anything. And I don't think he's what we need. I had seen games for Nottingham Forest where he was going missing. And I said at the time I thought he was overrated and overpriced, and I was very glad that we weren't going in for him or that we were walking away. And I was told, not in here, I was told on the internet that, you know, I was being salty and it's just because Man City got him, blah, 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 blah. Except I said it before Man City were like the favourites for him. So how is it salty? So I find it interesting. Like I said, I think if they'd paid in this inflated window 70 odd million, I'd have been like, right, cool. Because that 70, 80 seems to be the new 50. I would have been like, right, cool. That's all right. 116, crazy. Cray. So I agree with you for the most part. Machina says, well, I'm comparing him to Zidane and Modric. Well, if you're going to compare people to Zidane and Modric, they're all going to be brutal. That's a little stacked. That's a little bit unfair. I don't think he's as good as Santos. Come at me. I don't care. I don't think he's as good as Santos. He was bought to play in that position, and I don't think he's as good. He was bought to play the same position as we bought Santos for. And I think Santos, from what I've seen, maybe that will change as the season goes on. From what I've seen, I think Santos looks better. Santos is more what I wanted from my team. You know? But, what else have we got? What time are we? We're 5-1, lads. Oh my God, the time is flying. The time is absolutely flying. I am just loving these shows at the minute. They're so enjoyable. I actually want to give a shout out to Fabrice Hawkins. So we're going to Chelsea next, because we have actually had another Here We Go. We've had the Disassi Here We Go from Fabrizio. So Fabrizio has said, Crystal Palace reach a verbal agreement to sign Axel Disassi, another Chelsea player that was on our list of players that we said Chelsea would put out. So we said Tossin was on the list. And we said Disasi, who's now here we go to Palace. So we're doing pretty well on our list of players that we said we thought Chelsea would get rid of. We've been pretty accurate so far. So Crystal Palace reach a verbal agreement to sign Axel Disasi from Chelsea. Here we go. Understand Disasi is undergoing a medical at Crystal Palace this morning after a loan agreement between the two clubs. Chelsea receive a loan fee and his salary will be covered by Palace. My thing, and this is a pet peeve of mine, it's nothing to anybody, it's just I don't like it. See this thing where journalists are saying, and it's not just Fabrizio, I've seen others doing this, this club has reached an agreement to sign X player. When I hear you say they've reached an agreement to sign a player, to me that implies they've bought them, they've signed them. I understand to go on a loan, they still have to sign something, it still has to be agreed. But to me, like, if I just see to sign a player, I'm going to assume it's on a permanent move. If it's for a loan, I would prefer if they would just say, has signed on loan. Just add in, they've reached a verbal agreement to sign on loan, or to loan. They've reached a verbal agreement to loan Axel Disasi. For me, when you say to sign, it implies a permanent move. And as I said, this is not about Fabrizio. I've seen a lot of journalists doing this through the window. And I mean, he's written loan in the same post. It's not that serious. It's not a big deal. It probably doesn't matter to anybody else in the world. I find it really irritating. It really bugs me because it's just, I think it's a play with the words. Because I feel like even last summer, or maybe I'm wrong, loan deals were reported as this club has agreed to loan this player. When, I don't know, does anybody else have that? Is that just me? Maybe it is just me. I don't know. Do you know those little stupid things that just get under your skin for no apparent reason? That one's getting to me this summer. If it's a loan, just say it's a loan. If you tell me he's been signed, I'm going to assume it's on a permanent. But anyway, Disasi is going on loan. He's going on loan to Crystal Palace. But like that's sort of what we said. He was on the list. He was one of the players that we said would probably get moved along one way or another. We said that a couple of those would probably end up being loans just because there's so many of them that Chelsea had to work on. It would be a point of just getting the ones out where they could. So we also thought Badiashile might go on a loan. I don't know if anything's happened with him. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I'll need to go through this list at the end of it and see how many of the ones we said have actually been moved. All Boxed Up says we keep loaning out players. Machina Joe says journalists lie for a living. Mainstream media. I mean, to be fair, he's not lying because he does say, understand Disasi is undergoing medical at Crystal Palace this morning after loan agreement. But the first sentence, the main sentence, the headline is verbal agreement to sign. Underneath that, he's written loan agreement. So he's not lying. I just find it really irritating, personally. It's just really irritating. You know, one of them things. First world problems and all that just really irritated me. But the reason I want to give out a massive, massive shout out to Fabrice Hawkins is because on the 5th of August, Fabrice Hawkins came out. And I had this saved, but we've had so many different things to talk about. We just never ended up talking about it. Fabrice Hawkins on the 5th of August. Today's the 21st. So 16 days ago, more than 2 weeks ago, Fabrice Hawkins came out and said, Crystal Palace have submitted a loan offer, including an obligation to buy for Axel Disasi. Now, I don't know if there is an obligation, but this was over 2 weeks ago. Fabrice was talking about this. The French defender remains Palace's priority target to replace Maxence Lacroix, as previously reported. Negotiations between Crystal Palace and Chelsea are ongoing. A meeting also took place with the players' representative. So that was the 5th of August. Then, on the 19th of August, so days ago, exclusive from Fabrice Hawkins, on the 19th, verbal agreement reached between Chelsea and Crystal Palace for Axel Disasi to join Palace on a paid loan, no option to buy. Disasi remains Palace's priority to replace Maxence Lacroix. Talks now ongoing with the player and his representatives. If an agreement is reached, Disasi will play for Palace this season. So massive shout out. We've covered actually quite a few stories from Fabrice Hawkins throughout the summer. That was really good. He was talking about that on the 5th of August. He then came out and said that there was a verbal agreement between the clubs on the 19th. And now we've had a here we go today. Fabrice Hawkins, very well done. Very well done. Like, you have to give the credit where it's due. And we try and do that all the time. I do always try and find where it's been put out initially. Sometimes it's not always possible because you could end up going down a rabbit hole. But I just wanted to give Fabrice Hawkins his flowers because, as I said, we've spoken about him a number of times throughout this window. And he's got that so far ahead of everybody else. Shout out to him. Also, I put Crystal Palace to be relegated. I do think this strengthens them a little. Oh dear. I looked at my predictions again this morning and I was like, why did they make so much sense when I wrote them? Because there's a few of them I don't agree with now. I still think Sunderland get relegated, but maybe not Palace. Maybe Forest. Anyway, it's done. But yes, as All Boxed Up says, Disasi did turn down West Ham. That was true. That is true. All Boxed Up, confirmation. But I think it's a good move for Crystal Palace. I think they needed, to shore up a little bit. They needed to get some players in. And I think, look, Chelsea needed to get some players out. They're getting a loan fee plus his wages covered 100%. I mean, cool. Don't see an issue with it. He's one of a long list that need to shimmy on. He's now off the list. So I don't really see an issue with the whole thing. Alan, hello to Alan. Did Spurs sign Savinho? Savinho has been given the here we go from Fabrizio. So here we go from Fabrizio. Fee is going to be more than £75 million. So, as we know, sometimes it can get to a here we go like Ederson and then not go through. But it's got the stage of here we go. It looks pretty much done. Ornstein has spoken about it as well. Marmoush not over the line yet. Alan, talks continue over Marmoush as a separate deal is the current report. That is where it's at. So, Savinho's here we go. Marmoush is advanced talks between clubs is where that's at. According to the latest reports. As much as they know, that's what we know. Now, this is the last story we're going to have time for today, guys. Then we are going to have to go. But it came out and it was rumoured that Bruno G had picked up a hamstring injury. And I saw it and I was like, let me just check that. Because in the Community Shield, we did see Bruno G did seem to be struggling to get into the match. He didn't seem his wee self. He looked to be trying to settle a bit. And then he came off at half time and he was on the bench with an ice pack cling filmed to the inner of his thigh. So then when we saw the story about the hamstring, I was like, that's not where your hamstring is. I'm not a doctor, but I didn't think that was where your hamstring was. So, during the pre-match press conference for the weekend, Mikel Arteta said that Bruno G is carrying a minor muscular knock, not a hamstring injury. He is injured. There is a knock. It is a minor muscular knock. which would be why the ice pack was on his thigh and not the back of his leg. So it was put out from a fan account, an ITK, about this hamstring. Because he had a hamstring injury before, and then he was seen with an ice pack, this person went, hamstring. I am not a super duper intelligent person, guys. I do not know all the biology and where all the parts are and the bits, right? But I know a thigh is not a hamstring. I mean, even I can work that one out. He does have a knock. He's carrying a thing. It's a muscular knock in his thigh. It's not his hamstring. So just putting that out there. Now, not that I think it's funny when a player gets injured, because it's not. It's horrible, and they're real people, and this is their career. It's how they feed their families, right? So I'm not laughing at an injury. However, players that move from Newcastle within the Premier League don't always have the best of luck. So Isak broke his leg. Bruno G, first competitive minutes for Arsenal, and he's picked up a muscular knock. If anything happens to Tonali, I'm telling you now, that needs to be investigated. Never mind dodgy dealings. We need to investigate what Newcastle's voodoo doctor is doing if Tonali gets injured. Gordon's gone to Spain, so he's safe. I think it's only within the Premier League that happens. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled on Tonali, just to see. It's just a theory I've got going at the minute. But he looks unlikely to play today. Bruno G. Looks unlikely to play today. They don't want to risk him. But not a hamstring, so not going to be super long. Arsenal medical staff are not heavily worried. He may be rested as a precaution. I mean, also, Mason Mount was rested as a precaution, and he did suffer a minor hamstring tear, according to Laurie Whitwell, who I believe. So you can't always believe minor knock, because we were told that Mason Mount was taken off as a precaution pre-season, and he has in fact suffered a minor hamstring tear, according to Laurie Whitwell. Bruno G, though, according to Mikel Arteta himself, is a muscular knock. So I did find that interesting. Sorry, Shem. Everybody has spent all morning cheering up Shem, and I've wrecked it. Shem, I'm sorry. Shem says, thanks for jinxing Tonali. He'll now break a toenail getting out of his car and be out until Christmas. I'm sorry, Shem. I forgot he plays for Spurs now. Alan says United shouldn't sign Hall. So, oh yeah, because the jinx might follow him to United. To be fair, I don't think we're signing him anyway. But I mean, there is a silver lining. We don't want to sign Newcastle players because they're jinxed. Guys, I do have to just say, because we're on the internet, I do have to just say this is a bit of fun. This is a joke. It's a laugh. It's a giggle. Nobody's saying anything for real. I do actually have to, literally, because this is public and we're on the internet, I do actually have to say that, because some people are silly. Silly billies. There's silly billies on the internet. But Rob says I look sorry. Yeah, this is my sorry face. Is it sincere? Oh dear. All boxed up says, is that Tonali injured? Oh God. Roz, the face of someone that is sorry and means it. I do mean it. Right. In fairness, I genuinely forgot he'd moved to Spurs. I knew he'd moved to Spurs, but when I was saying it, I wasn't thinking of like the repercussions for Spurs. I was thinking about Newcastle. You know what I mean? Flossie says, our voodoo doctors put a hex on all the players that leave. See, Shem, it wasn't just me. Flossie said it too. Oh, Guess has been lurking all stream, the teacher hasn't noticed. So I think that qualifies Guess for spy status. She is now a ninja. Ninja Guess. Guys, before this devolves into absolute utter chaos, even more so than it already has, I must end the stream. I must go. We will be back this evening with the season opener. The Premier League is back. We're back. So we have the watch along this evening. This is going to redirect you to that watch along. It's not until obviously later on. If you're not going to be around, that's fine. Just smash the like button before you X out. Totally fine. I don't mind. I won't be offended. However, if you are going to be there, I'll be delighted. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the fun, for the chats. We've gone full circle there. Thank you for all of the wonderful super stickers and chats as well. Very much appreciated. Our new subscribers, you are wonderful. And hopefully I'll see you guys later on. Have a good